Mark, you touched on it. It's a stark contrast. This is the flyer that you were just referencing that was being handed out, and it seemingly has had a significant impact. This is the alleyway behind Sacred Heart Church. Just to my left here, you can see a handful of people here, but I kind of want to walk you along the sidewalk here along 4th Street. As we walk this way, you'll see there is no one in front of me right now. This sidewalk completely empty right now because all of the people have cleared out in this area. All that's left are some remnants of, you can see the American Red Cross blanket up here, stuffed up on the windows. There is even, I want to show you up here, there's even a cowboy boot with the Texas flag right up here that's stashed away. But other than that, this was a sidewalk that we saw just dozens upon dozens of migrants sleeping at night, camping out here over the last several days. But as you can see here, I can walk this whole stretch of 4th Street all the way up to Oregon here without encountering a single person. This entire sidewalk now empty. And as we turn the corner here along Oregon Street, there's an El Paso police officer here. I want to point your attention over here. This is really the makeshift campsites right in front of Sacred Heart Church where people were sleeping. But when you look deep inside here, there's no one inside right now. It's just what's left with the heavy coats, the sweatshirts, the American Red Cross blankets. It's what we're seeing all the way around the corner. Stephanie, I've been out here outside Sacred Heart Church for just over an hour now, and I can tell you just within the last couple of minutes we've seen the most activity in the time that I've been here. First, I want to show you off to my right. It's a very stark contrast in what's happening. Off to my right, you can see several El Paso police officers, 3 or 4 El Paso police squad cars, a couple of bicycle officers right now, as well as some one El Paso County Sheriff's Office deputy car and a couple of deputies that are out here. They do have a couple of people in handcuffs over here. They were questioning a few people, and one of those people was put in the back of a police car. They were holding some type of papers, but there is a fairly large police presence right here off to my right now as they are detaining at least one person. It looks like they're questioning another person right now. But I mentioned a stark contrast in what's going on. That's what's happening to my right. But I want to pan back this way, Jalen, if we move over this way, just to my left and just over my shoulder here. This was a pretty large crowd that was right behind me just a minute ago because everyone rushed to the corner because this car right here, this Ford that you see here on the corner, is a DHS bus right behind it. But this Ford right here on the corner showed up, popped the trunk open, and is now giving out water and some food to some of the migrants who are left here outside of Sacred Heart Church.
You noticed some activity. Tell us what you learned.
Yes, Stephanie, I actually spoke to El Paso police officer just a few minutes ago about the activity we showed you off the top of the 5 with at least one person in handcuffs being detained there momentarily. The police officer told me he wasn't sure if it was an immigrant or not, but they were there because of suspicion for a possession of marijuana possibility. So that's what they were looking in there just over around the corner from where I'm standing right now on the corner of Oregon and Father Ram. But I'm also joined by Oliva Diaz and Marta Medina. These are the 2 volunteers who just showed up on their own good volition to offer some food and some supplies. Jalen, why don't you come around? You can see in the trunk there's some water and stuff. I don't have a ton of time, but I do want to ask you real quick, what compelled you to come down here?
Oh, well, we are here for these people. They're hungry, they're thirsty, so we bring something to eat for them, some candies, chips, water, and fruits, and a lot of something.
And Oliva, what has been the response? How have they received these?
Oh, they're very glad. Because they're very thirsty. They need to drink something. It's hot, and they need it.
Well, thank you very much for giving us a few minutes of your time. I really appreciate it. She's right. It is hot out here. Of course, some of the migrants that are just off to my side here, off to my right, are seeking some of that shade right now. But grateful to get some food and some water. I can tell you, right when they showed up and opened their trunk, there was a pretty good rush of people who crossed the street to try and get some of that food and water, and they've been kind enough to distribute that. But as you can see behind me, it is a far cry from what we saw over the last several days in terms of the number of migrants that are camping out on the sidewalks here outside Sacred Heart Church. A big reason why is because of this flyer right here. This is the flyer that was given out early in the morning. I was speaking to a Good Morning America producer earlier today. He was out here at 4 o'clock in the morning, and he said that that's when they started handing out these documents, even waking up some of the migrants as they were sleeping. Essentially what this says is if you can turn yourselves in, you should should do so, and it gives you an address as to where you can do that, and they want to get you on the right path. Even if you've entered illegally, they say get you on a path to migration is what this document entails. This flyer led to a lot of people ultimately going down the street and turning themselves in. We'll have more on that from Leiloba Citiro in just a moment, but first I want to bring in ABC7's Brianna Perez live to explain exactly who is responsible for this flyer. But I will say what I have noticed in terms of those people who are showing back up here at Sacred Heart Church, that's a little bit different from what we saw the last couple of nights. A lot of them are visibly carrying either a clear bag with documents inside or a yellow manila folder that clearly has some documents inside. That, of course, it may be part of the processing process if they did enter here illegally and will ultimately be allowed to go on to their next destination. That is something that we'll certainly continue to track and monitor here outside Sacred Heart Church. But as part of this targeted enforcement operation that began over in the overnight hours and into this morning, it really all started late last night, a news release coming from Customs and Border Protection. And what started all of that was at 10 o'clock last night when they announced that they would reduce the lanes at the Paso del Norte Bridge, just a few blocks from where I'm standing right now, and reduce the flow of traffic, actually asking people crossing to and from Juarez to use a different port of entry along the El Paso sector. And for more on that part of the story, we send it to our Juarez correspondent, Erik Perez, on the other side of the border.